morning.
Good morning.
All right. What do we want? Coffee! So, I'm Heather Adams. I'm the CEO of Maryland Nonprofits, and it's my absolute pleasure to welcome you to Advocating for Maryland's Values, moving forward from Sine. Sine, the end of the legislative session seems like years ago now, with so much that's been happening so fast, and as with the advocates, it's hard for us to keep up and take time out to connect with each other and strategize, but in fact, that's what we're here to do this morning, and I think that we'll all walk away with some really great ideas about how we can rev up our own advocacy and messaging for our organizations and how we can work together as a united field over the next 18 months to even 2 years in addressing federal policy and the impact on the state of Maryland. To make a couple of logistical announcements. Hashtag, I apologize, it's actually Advocate for MD rather than for Maryland. Advocate for MD is the hashtag for today, so we really encourage you to tweet. And if you want to hop on the Wi-Fi, it's an open network and the password is Maryland17. When I did it with all lowercase and it worked. So I hope that you will do that. We are encouraging the use of devices to tweet and notate the event today. We are discouraging the use of devices to check email and do other things. So let's try to stay in the present moment and stay focused on the task at hand, because we do have some tremendous challenges ahead of us. I would like to recognize and thank two of our board members who are with us this morning. We have our board vice chair, Marla Bogaway. Please be recognized. Thank you. And we have Bill Simons, our board member up here at the front. Thank you so much for being here. And I would also like to thank and acknowledge who are putting on this event with us. We really rarely do anything at Maryland Nonprofits alone, and for a huge advocacy effort that we're undertaking, we really need everyone working together and rowing in the same direction. So Maryland Alliance for the Poor, Maryland Cash Campaign, Job Opportunities Task Force, Community Development Network of Maryland, Maryland Citizens for the Arts, Maryland Center on Economic Policy, the Public Justice Center, the Associated Black Charities, Healthcare for All, and 1,000 Friends of Maryland. You have all been fabulous friends to Maryland Nonprofits and amazing advocates for Maryland's communities. And when I think about the people in Maryland who count on you, I think collectively we can say these advocates and the nonprofit sector and those of you in the room, we can say to Maryland's communities, we've got your back. If you are someone who is suffering because of pollution in your neighborhood, if you are someone who is disenfranchised because of your gender identity or expression, if you are someone who is left out of opportunity because your community is predominantly poor and disconnected, if you are experiencing racial disparities, if you are having your Medicaid and Medicare, food stamps, and those kinds of things threatened by federal policy, all of these things, this group of advocates are here to say, we've got your back. We are advocating for Maryland's values. We are advocating for you, Maryland's communities. We would like to talk a little bit about our goals for today. What we would like to come out with is a very strong understanding of key messaging that can be overarching across all of our different mission areas. And that we are working towards, and it's not enough to just fight against the threats that are facing us from federal level. We have the Affordable Care Act repeal on the table. We have major cuts being proposed in the federal budget. We have tax reform looming that's not quite clear what that's going to be or what the impact would be on Maryland. We have a major ramping up of mandatory sentencing. We have massive deportations and an attempt to divert a lot of the United States resources to building a border wall. The threats go on and on to how Maryland's communities are being impacted by federal policy. At the same time, Maryland here at home, we have had for some years now a structural deficit that has led to flat funding, cuts in funding, and other ways that Maryland's most vulnerable communities are being stretched, and our environment, the air we breathe, is not getting the investments that without all these federal cuts coming. For us to just advocate against cuts. It's not just about what we're against. We need to be united about what we are for. And to that end, we have involved many of you over the past few years in really articulating what Maryland values, what vision we are fighting for. And together we have focused on peace, justice, and equity, great education for all ages, lifelong learning, flourishing businesses in terms of including paths to opportunity for people to start their own businesses and build wealth in communities that have been left out, having good paying jobs, financial security, healthy environments, I mentioned healthy bodies, healthy relationships, spiritual health, online access, safe, clean, family-friendly, walkable, bikeable neighborhoods, recreation and vibrant arts, access to efficient, safe public transportation. All of these things are values and visions that Marylanders share very broadly, and we all share in common. And it's good to remember what it is that we're fighting for as we get into the strategies and tactics of responding to that are being proposed. All of this, it's important for us to keep an equity lens in mind. This slide may be hard to read, so you actually have a handout in front of you about the Associated Black Charities 10 questions for 10 essential questions for policy development. And I would like to just point out there that most policies are developed from a universalist perspective, assuming a universal societal norm, which has historically been white, male, and able-bodied perspective that assumes everyone has equal access and opportunity. Such an approach, however, does not account for the structural and institutional barriers to opportunity that continue to operate in American society and here in Maryland. Barriers don't just hurt individual racial groups, they hurt our national economy, generating losses on our economic and material productivity. So you can go on to some very practical tools on this handout, and Associated Black Charities has more ability to support you in applying an equity lens to your policy advocacy. And that was clearly one of the parts of the Maryland vision and one of the Maryland values that we are trying to promote. And it's absolutely the right thing to do, and it leads to economic growth. When you expand education, you expand job readiness, you expand your entrepreneurship, all of those things expand the economy for everyone, and is really a key, along with green jobs and other investments, to a vibrant Maryland economy that works for everyone. So what is it that we're going to try to do together? What we really need is a statewide effort to advocate for Maryland's values. And some of the strategic points that we're going to be looking at is, first of all, in 24 jurisdictions, we are one Maryland. We need to identify and link local issues that have federal and state policy connections that will be relevant to local communities. Most people don't understand all the things that you know and understand about what's happening in the policy environment. Most people don't understand what their taxes pay for. Most people have never even heard of the Community Development Block Grant. All of these kinds of things need to be translated into real life things that are happening in people's communities. One example of this sort of local, state, and federal relevance is in Prince George's County. They're planning to develop a new hospital center that is predicated on the Affordable Care Act being in place for that financing to work. If that hospital center goes away, there's all kinds of lack of access to healthcare, of course, but a lot of ancillary development that is being planned around that whole area where the hospital is being planned. So all kinds of investments from the private sector and the public sector go away, and resources for communities go away. So examples like that that really bring home what these federal changes will mean to communities are going to be essential as we try to move public opinion and move our legislators to, hopefully we can impact federal policy. If we can't, and if changes and cuts happen to the nation, that Maryland has a robust response so that these things don't happen. So we really want to find and identify at least 24 of those. And maybe it's, you know, times many when we think about arts, environment, health, education, impacts that will be happening at these local levels. Secondly, we want to have effective messaging. So many of us may be using our own jargon. I know we do. We challenge ourselves to speak more simply in terms that communicate values that are widely held by Marylanders. And today's agenda is going to help us understand what the issues are and then help us understand how to communicate those effectively to affect public opinion and affect public policy. And to that end, we want to give you the tools to advance your mission area. So if you're coming from a perspective of the arts or community development or housing, these tools will help your specific advocacy. But then we also want to make sure that we are not fighting over the same little crumbs, that we are fighting together to grow the pie, and so that all of our messaging and our advocacy is united towards a common aim that takes care of all of these Maryland values, not just some of them. We need to focus on voter turnout. We have certain jurisdictions in the state who have significantly depressed voter turnout in gubernatorial elections, especially Baltimore City and Prince George's County. But in 24 jurisdictions across the state of Maryland, we need to make sure that our communities have their voices heard at the polls. And so in terms of, you know, nonpartisan voter turnout activity, Republican, Democrat, Independent, those people that they elect will know who voted for them, people in communities who care about Maryland values. Just a couple of things about Maryland nonprofits today. So if you are not already a member of Maryland nonprofits, we have a free program for organizations with less than $750,000 in revenue or less than 10 years old and less than 10 years old. It's called the Nonprofit Development Center. This center was created because of advocacy of people in this room who created a bill in the legislature to provide capacity building resources to small nonprofits. That is now available to you, and you can apply online for a free membership if you are eligible. And if you don't meet those criteria, we have a special gift for you of a 25% discount. We are celebrating our 25th anniversary today. That discount code is MEM25, and we have, might be with your name badge, or if not, it's at the registration. Is it in the name badge? The discount code? The discount code is in your name badge, and we hope that you'll become a member of Maryland Nonprofits, not just because the membership is our largest and most sustainable source of revenue to help us do this advocacy work, which is really important, but more important to you, we have now a really amazing member portal to enable you to share information and collaborate and coordinate online through that portal with your membership. So thank you all so much for being here, for advocating for Maryland values. And I would like to invite our next speaker is Josh Kurtz, who's co-founder of Maryland Matters, who's going to give us an update on the Maryland legislative session.
Thank you, and good morning, everybody. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for all the great work that you do. What I would say today, I was trying to be mindful of the fact that you guys work a bunch of different issues, and so I was saying to myself, stick to the issues, avoid politics, stick to the issues. So I made notes, and I thought I was sticking to the issues, and then I reviewed my notes this morning, and I was like, it's still pretty heavy on politics. So